The typical suspects are unhappy with Death Stranding 2. Who would have expected this?
VGC giving Death Stranding 2 5 out of 5 stars, saying that On the Beach is an epic, big budget sequel to Kojima's controversial cult classic. It offers a better story, an excellent cast of characters, and beautiful world to reconnect. Death Stranding 2 feels like the product of everything that's happened to Kojima since he left Konami, and it's easily one of 2025's very best. Death Stranding 2 On the Beach is an all-time great sequel and one of Hideo Kojima's best games. PlayStation Lifestyle giving it 10 out of 10, saying that Death Stranding 2 isn't the revolution the first game was. Instead, it refines almost all aspects of the original to make an excellent, well-polished experience. On the Beach firmly establishes the Death Stranding universe and makes it a franchise in which I could see many more stories told. It might be Kojima's most well-rounded title to date, and it shows that he's still got the touch even as he enters his 60s.
Is Kojima currently easily considered the best game developer in, like, I don't know, the last 2 decades? Is anyone even close, honestly, to rivaling him at this point? It seems like no. And this situation is pretty interesting because almost everyone currently is praising Death Stranding 2. And the joke is it's still kind of a walking simulator at the end of the day. But even the game journals are trying to say good things about it, except the usual suspects, as usually they don't.
Dexerto, 5 out of 5 stars, saying that in every sense of the word, the follow-up is an improvement over the original. In many ways, it honestly makes the first Death Stranding come across as a tech demo, a mere proof of concept with how it evolves the formula and polishes every possible facet. Here we get Kojima.
You know what's the difference if you think of Death Stranding 1 as the tech demo for Death Stranding 2? And what's the difference between those and The Witcher 4? One's real and the other one is fake, and they want you to buy into the fakeness.
Real vision executed seemingly without compromise, and it is utterly tremendous. But this praise for Death Stranding 2 right now is widespread. You have Jake Baldino of Before You Buy saying, I like Death Stranding 2 more than the original. Starts off feeling samey, but quickly reveals fun gameplay improvements that I think fans will dig. The story is mostly paced much better than the OG. Sam is cooler, has more agency, crazy stuff happens, nice and weird, just how we like it. Gene Park of the
That's
Washington
good.
Post saying that Death Stranding 2 is Kojima's best writing in games since Metal Gear Solid 3. It is cleanest, most exciting narrative, and DS2 is Kojima Productions at the peak of their powers with robust cinematic set pieces and character moments that will keep you pushing through its mysterious plot full of surprises. This is another Kojima masterpiece. He's done it again, which this is just paragraph.
The madman did it again, they say. Dude, honestly, I was not super sold on Death Stranding 2 after seeing, the metal guy with the guitar and whatever he was. Yeah, that seemed a little bit okay. I get it. Like, this is definitely Kojima we're talking about, but I don't know. But I mean, honestly, judge everything by its cover. Every book should be judged by its cover in the modern day, sadly, except Kojima, I guess. You don't judge him by his cover.
Graph right here is music to my ears. Then even IGN got on board this time around, a 9 out of 10 instead of the controversial scores that we saw with the first installment with this friend.
I mean, to be fair, Death Stranding is a AAA release, which means IGN must give it by their own merit system a 9 or an 8 because it's a AAA game by definition. Only the indies get below 7s because it's indies and they're poorer, so I guess classism is fine, IGN. That's very cool. Based actually.
Franchise. But very much so, Death Stranding 2 On the Beach has firmly planted its spot in the 2025 Game of the Year conversation, up there with other games that have gotten similar scores, such as Expedition 33, which I think is going to win a lot of these awards, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Oh yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I hope this shit crashes and burns. Okay, Kingdom Come Deliverance is propaganda, not an actual game. Okay, I know people are gonna be against me in the comments, but that just means you haven't played the game fully. You literally become Small Hat and then just go around destroying the other folk. That's pretty much Kingdom Come Deliverance too in a nutshell. They made it pure propaganda at the end of the game. And, well, the only bonus is that you need like 30 hours to get to the end of the game, and that's why people do not know this. But yes, Kingdom Come Deliverance deserves all the worst. And Vavra is probably gonna get a reckoning with his next game. Because I mean, everyone, most people understand what's happening.
Two and Split Fiction, and I guess you could throw in Monster Hunter Wilds, although those performance issues.
Oh, that's not gonna be anything. People are big mad about Monster Hunter Wilds. But yeah, currently it's kind of clear obscure taking probably most of it. Death Stranding 2 is probably gonna get a lot of things. Well, not a lot of things. Clear obscure is probably sweeping currently. But, well, we have slightly less than half a year left, so we can see how it changes.
Probably gonna delete it from the conversation, but Kojima has done it again, it seems, and these scores are just absolutely amazing. 90 out of 100 top critic average, 97% of critics recommending this experience, lots of 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s. And say what you will, Kojima was talking, there were some interviews from people that are associated with Kojima Productions saying that, Kojima made significant changes to Death Stranding 2 because playtesters thought it was too good. He changed stuff in the script and the way some.
Yeah, this was wild that he actually made things worse. But actually, it does make sense to make if everything's too good, no moment can stand out because you need some of it that doesn't stand out as great. Otherwise, it just all blends in, and you can't truly distinguish the great moments from the greatest moments.
Crucial stuff happens because he thought his work was not polarizing. Well, say what you will, it doesn't appear to be too polarizing. Or, well, the areas in which this game is polarizing, it's more headache inducing, but very much so. I think people forget that Death Stranding, the first installment about 5 or 6 years ago now, yeah, 6 years ago, it was a very controversial release. A lot of people found it as a boring walking simulator. That was a lot of criticism that people had with it. And here we are 6 years later with a more refined experience, it seems, and a lot of people falling in love with it. And that is honestly fantastic to see. But yeah, back then, 79% of critics recommended. It was still pretty high scores, but there was a lot of conversation that we really haven't had with a Kojima title, it feels like, in a long time. So this time coming around, seeing Death Stranding 2 getting these glowing reviews, very nice to see. But there definitely is some mixed ones out there. A 6 out of 10 from Restart saying that On the Beach review, here we go again. That seems to be some of the criticism that you have from some of the detractors right now, and it is that.
Yeah, most people who do not like Death Stranding 2 are, well, they weren't sold by the first game and they just see the second game as, well, more of the same, because technically it kind of is more of the same, no matter if you want to say it got better, it got worse, or whatever. It is more of the same. That's undoubtable, but that doesn't make it bad.
That it's just more of the same, which I've seen that even in some of the positive reviews saying that if you're expecting a totally different experience, it's not that. And yeah, this one says that they didn't like the narrative. They said the antagonist is boring. The focus on combat takes away from the best parts of the game, but they say it's a beautiful and technical showpiece. Performances by the new and old cast are incredible. Walking around still feels good. And another negative review is, well, not somewhat negative, 6.5 out of 10. Thanks, Sam, but Princess Beach is in another castle. And yeah, in their review, they cite the same things. Pretty much, the gameplay does not evolve compared to the first game. It's repetitive and unnecessarily long. The story is unnecessarily complicated and uninteresting, although
Bro, what do you want from a Kojima game? An easy to follow story that doesn't require 2 videos each 10 hours long to explain what the hell is even going on? What do you mean?
unnecessarily complicated. Kind of just feels like Kojima DNA, and then yeah, similar things. Excellent technical section with spectacular graphics, some of the best acting, very good.
Yeah, the technical display in this game is actually wild. Now, technically, yeah, most of the time you're just walking about an open field. So, at 60 FPS is not really that hard to reach, but still, it looks really good. That Stranding 2 looks really good. Okay, it's kind of blowing a lot of things out of the water, honestly.
Variety of scenarios and landscapes to explore. So the same pros.
It looks already better than GTA, honestly. I mean, GTA is not going to be even close to this. Now, granted, again, GTA needs way, way, way more, computing power and all that magical stuff because it has buildings and NPCs. This doesn't, but still, it's super impressive.
And cons pretty much here, but this is where things get a little bit different. because we have GameSpot to review. And now, when you think about criticisms with games, you think about like what those other, somewhat negative reviews were. They brought up points about the actual gameplay experience, things that didn't work for them. And I can respect those opinions because not every game is, I mean, hell, Red Dead Redemption 2, I bring this example up all the time, but there's a lot of people that consider it a very boring game and they just did not like the mission structure. Myself, I consider it an all-time great experience. I just absolutely loved Arthur Morgan. I think with any game you bring up, there's people that are just not going to like it, and I can understand that, especially when we're talking about specifics with the game and story, subjective things. But then we get to some of these reviews from outlets. These outlets do have power. I think people need to understand that these are the ones that get these review codes, and a big outlet like GameSpot, you expect them.
Oh my god, they did put Wong in the game, huh? Holy shit! What's the point of portals if he's just gonna open portals to everywhere? Like, bruh! He never really used portals to their full extent because he didn't use it to separate limbs. But, I mean, still, he can open portals. Like, what, bruh, isn't this a little bit OP? Isn't this like a slightly cheating? Why do you need a fanny pack, by the way, if you're just gonna jump through portals like an ass? Bruh,
Get these review codes, and a big outlet like GameSpot, you expect them to review this game on its merits, but then you get just mind-boggling stuff. This specific review is what I'm talking about.
it's actually crazy. Most of these outlets don't have any pulpit left. They're jokes, but there are a lot of. Well, yeah, they're pretty much like the not even normies. They're like super normies, the super evolved strain of the normie. They're mega normies. They literally cannot even accept that corruption is even possible in this world. Okay, let alone like a conspiracy theory, God forbid, or that a journalist would ever lie to you. That's crazy. Someone put him in the. Oh wait, we closed those because no one's crazy. Double-edged sword, though, am I right? Anyway, there's not a lot that holds a lot of sway, but there are some stuff. For example, game ranks and all of that stuff. That's like just journalism in YouTube format. IGN. A lot of people watch that. A lot of people watch that, and then you read the comment section there. It's typically the most normie-esque stuff. People who probably don't even play games, this is like their second game in 5 years. So, a lot of that type of stuff.
They say that Death Stranding 2 on the Beach is fixated on revisiting past ideas, which limits its impact to being a good but not great sequel, and they say it's tied up. That's what they call the review. It's not really
Bro, that sounds stupid. Your sequel builds upon the previously existing things, so it can't really go into new ideas, so it's bad. Bro, that's the whole point of having a sequel. What do you mean?
massively negative review, but I do take considerable issue when I see stuff like this in a review. The obsession with honoring past legacy also carries the baggage of some of the series' worst tropes, particularly around the betrayal of women.
Oh, yeah. Shit, this is Vogue. He didn't even actually have to read women, okay? Again, the whole modern ideologies, the wokeness, the fact that everyone's equal, the fact that, no one's smart, that pattern recognition is a myth, women are as strong as men, and, all of this fucking garbage, this just the first words already betrayed it, because these people cannot accept anything good coming out from the past. Because their whole existence is kind of based, because all these ideologies are technically pretty much 100% based in the reality of their own creating, that they are now enlightened and everything that existed previously is bad. And thus, if everything that existed previously is bad, everything that exists now in the future but is derived from something that was made prior to their awakening, to their ideology emerging, can only be bad because their ideology is the only one that truly encompasses what life actually is supposed to be and how everything is supposed to operate. Effectively, when you understand this, it becomes very simple to understand why some people refer to it as a cult, because it kind of is. It denounces everything that is not derivative from their actions and beliefs, which is kind of wild. That's how these things happen. And then they call it out as bad and whatnot. And they don't even need any justification, but because the justification is the fact that it's just not more of their own stuff.
The baggage of some of the series' worst tropes, particularly around the portrayal of women. Yes, we're doing this again, and if you don't know what I'm referring to, doing this again, we saw this happen with Screen Rant last year. They did that with Black Myth Wukong, in which they dedicated a massive section of their review just...
Oh yeah, the funny part, Black Myth Wukong has women in it, and all of that good stuff. They just didn't play the game, so they didn't know.
Specifically on the fact that this game wasn't inclusive or diverse enough, and they actually specifically pointed this out as one of their main negatives with the game, saying it lacks in inclusivity and diversity. A game about a fucking monkey, man. It was mind-boggling back then, it's still mind-boggling now, but these outlets, they hold power. These reviews contribute to places like Metacritic and OpenCritic.
By the way, again, one of the ironic things about saying that there's not enough diversity and there's a monkey, these people are the first ones that are going to associate animals to different races of people. So the monkey technically is not white. It's an insert for well, pick literally any of your favorite non-white races. You know how D&D has made orcs into a Mexican allegory, a very on the nose allegory, but still, you know. So, the fact that they're claiming that there's no diversity, yet in a normal situation, when they would see some kind of animal representation of a human, they would instantaneously say, but that's racist, because that's clearly an insert of X right there. It's so hilarious that they're this poor.
These outlets, they hold power. These reviews contribute to places like Metacritic and OpenCritic, and we know that this games industry is fixated on those scores. And that's why I mean, these outlets do have power. They get these review codes, they get access weeks in advance, and then we get shit like this from this industry. And this is the type of stuff that deserves to be pushed back on. And if you don't, there are consequences. Consequences that we've seen a number of sequels and follow-up experiences. Enabling these perspectives has pushed developers to pivot design to cater to it. And that is something that has plagued this industry the last number of years. Look at Dragon Age and Saints Row as prime examples. But yeah, let's continue on with GameSpot, specifically what they're saying with Death Stranding 2. The obsession with honoring past legacy also carries the baggage of some of the series' worst tropes, particularly around the portrayal of women, which the first game was guilty of, okay? While I can't speak with authority about some of the sequel's plot lines, including one involving a phenomenon around childbirth, some scenes caused an exhausting deja vu. There's an unskippable photography minigame. This is what they're putting a massive criticism on, featuring 3 women posing in front of the camera. I think that was in some of the trailers too, as well as a central character who often takes her shoes off as crew members make a running commentary around this habit. The camera pans during cutscenes aren't as excessive as, say, the treatment around Quiet and Metal Gear Solid 5. Of course, we're bringing up all of Kojima's quote-unquote sins, but it also feels unnecessary. And since you're witnessing photorealistic
You know what? They could actually get away with this if they weren't so fucking on the nose stupid about the fact, though, that but it's happening and it's not a problem. If they find a better way to be sneaky about, they could probably get away with more. But since their critiques are so fucking stupid when you see them in life, I mean, they're not even trying to mask these critiques. They're just being like very frontal about what they don't like. And a normal person looking at what they don't like is like, holy shit, look at that. Turns out I'm sane and the whispers in my head are actually a good thing.
Depictions of real life actors, it can slip into being a bit weird. And again, I bring this up because this isn't just like this one little paragraph mention. This is a core thing that they point out as a bad part of this experience. They say that questionable tropes around women. And again, I just find that astonishing to put that as one of the core complaints that they have with this game, a mini game that they didn't like because of their interpretation of it. It just really does remind me exactly of what we saw happen with Black Myth Wukong from Screen Rant. And there are many more examples of this over the years. I brought it up constantly. A lot of this cultural outside nonsense these outlets just love to bring on in. Now, the complaints about Kojima and Death Stranding 2 and the supposed isms, this is something that's been going widespread over on the old Blue Sky Sky, which is an echo chamber at this point. We did see a former Kotaku or Polygon journalist, now they work at The Guardian, saying a while ago now, hey, Kojima buddy, do you want to explain why men in your games get actual names like Sam and Higgs, while the women get concepts like Fragile, Rainy, Tomorrow, and Doctor? You want to talk about that, friend? You know exactly what they're hinting at there, what they're pretty much trying to accuse him of. And somebody did call him out, fortunately, saying
Wait,
that
that's Ash Perish. He's a lunatic. Or she's a lunatic. I'm not even sure what that's supposed to be.
men, Dead Man, Heartman, Die Hard Man, women, Bridget, Lisa. So yeah, this perspective, just a personal bias that they threw out there. And we did see, like I said, it's just a lot of people have also been complaining about the fact that all of the review outlets, I guess mostly it's males that have written these reviews, one of which we saw a journalist saying, I clicked
The males that are pointing out that it's racism to not have more representation of women are now being pointed out by women because they don't write the articles. Like, this shit just never stops going in a circle. You love it. Like, every group can find something to be offended about the other group. Oh, baby. Bring back the mental institutions.
on 15 reviews for Death Stranding 2 on major publications and haven't found a single from a woman. Am I missing something? This is normal for video games media, especially with big games, but damn, usually I can find at least a few. Big prestigious publications are typically very bad about this. Love to hire literary white dudes for big games / stories. Anyway, about to actually start reading some of these reviews, and again, these outlets chose who they wanted to write this for, and I guarantee you, we've seen this with the breakdown of many games over the years. There's probably going to be about a 70% who are actually playing Death Stranding 2 are male, or maybe even more than that. Like, this is just a breakdown that happens with a lot of these big games and games of this nature. I know some people don't like to hear that, but that is the truth, especially when you look at the actual data. We saw another person saying, look, I'm sorry, but I will never not respect Kojima as a creator. I know he can't
I don't know. I think the data proves that there's only two genders. It is what it is.
write woman, and he loves to ramble, but F me, this dude knows what he wants, and what he wants is weird BS. Another individual saying, one thing I like to see dealt with in the next 5 years is the weird, vaguely Orientalist Japanese culture is different, so when games like Death Stranding or Yakuza treat women in weird, gross ways, we can't judge the Japanese devs because we don't get it.
Comparing the Yakuza series to Death Stranding is kind of wild on its own, honestly.
That's not true. It's gross. Again, find me an example with Death Stranding 2, and I don't want to hear about that stupid mini game. These individuals always latch on to these
I mean, even if you point that to me out the mini game, I literally don't care. I saw what it is, and I saw no problem with it.
Terms of saying this game is problematic, but they won't bring up actual examples, because most of the time when they do so, everybody points out how stupid of an example it is. The person does continue, and I think this is another journalist saying, Kojima, if he's writing these games himself, doesn't want women to be characters. He wants them to be ideas, riffs on a theme or motive, but not really a human person. I think the closest he comes is Metal Gear Solid 2 or the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3, but outside of them, it's a real dumpster of bodysuits and thatism. Male reviewers don't even see the issue most of the time, and anytime a woman criticizes this misogynistic characterization, they're bombarded with breathless descriptors of glorious Nippon.
You know what happens when a woman criticizes misogynism? They typically do it in very stupid ways. That's one. Two, you know who criticized them? Women who love misogynism. Most women are not. Most women are not not insane feminists. Okay, and they really like digging into women that make everything harder for their lives by asking for stupid shit.
On and their historic culture steeped in blah blah blah. No, it's regressive attitude towards women, not a sacred right. We saw another individual, another journalist saying, is it that women have no patience for Kojima games, or is that just me? And that was their response to why there's no women, I guess, reviewing Death Stranding 2, which make of that as you will. Another individual saying, I think this is really important, specifically in the context of Hideo. She breathes through her skin Kojima's specific history of writing female characters. Another individual saying, considering the way Kojima writes / designs women or handles some topics, having only men reviewing the games is a big miss. How is he to blame for any of this? The publisher put out these review codes and the outlets decided who did this. I just, this is crazy to me. Well, the qualities and defaults of the game.
Also, I mean, Kojima literally is for women. He even made them, take off their boots and socks so they can get the perfect 3D print of their feet. So, Kojima is for women, obviously,
may be critiqued by all, it increases the possibility of missing key points due to a lack of different ways of experiencing life. And guess what? Those reviews are going to come after a lot. There's only 60 reviews right now, and I'm sure some of them are going to be negative and with crazy bullshit points that a lot of us are going to disagree with, and they'll be out there. And then there will be many others that will also emerge that we'll look at and say that, yeah, I agree with that perspective. These reviews will come. There will be hundreds, I'm sure. But right now we got the 60 or so, and that was decided by the big mainstream outlets, and somehow a GameSpot guy who just has to make a big complaint about a mini game. Like I said, some of these reviews, this process is totally broken right now. And the fact that it's still games media focused in this day and age is blasphemous. It's truly, honestly astonishing. This should be heavily favored to more influencers, YouTubers at this point, because that is primarily where audiences.
YouTuber influencers are also kind of like questionable at this point. The big thing about Clair Obscure, for example, Expedition 33 when it launches, this is like the turning point, is the fact that a lot of people who reviewed this were the shill YouTubers. Because shill YouTubers are very real, we know this. And all the shill reviewers got the Clair Obscure code and, got paid, right? Or some of them didn't get paid. I'm not sure how that worked. But then, anyway, a lot of shield YouTubers got the code at the end of the day. And they did their stupid videos where they said, oh, the game has combat. The game has story. It's not a predictable story. And the combat's kind of hard. There's cutscenes. And that was it. Okay? And that damaged Clair Obscure. Those initial reviews damaged Clair Obscure pretty heavily because people saw, oh shit, it's literally Fixtra Life reviewing Clair Obscure and calling it good. And why is it calling good? For the most mundane, stupid reasons you could ever figure out, obviously. But it's calling it good because the one click felt good. That kind of shit. People who don't even know. People who have literally made careers of reviewing games but can't even describe what the fuck they're doing. Insane. And a lot of people from that avoided Clair Obscure Expedition 33 because the people who were reviewing it and calling it great and goaty and shit were the typical shills. The typical people who call Dragon Age Railguard the masterpiece in return to form. The people who say that Sound of Midnight is a great experience and you should buy and play it and it's a success. These types of people. And that did damage Clair Obscure. If you're a small game and you want to hire big YouTubers and you actually hire these shills, them calling your game a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, even if the game is good, is going to make people, well, kind of not play it because they're not going to believe it.
Have pivoted these days. Say what you want, say what you will. Another individual saying, I generally like Kojima, but there's no denying how extremely bad he is at writing women at all times. Another individual saying, as excited I am for the game, I would have liked seeing more reviews from women because based on only on previews Kojima's given, Death Stranding 2 feels like it's doing that thing Kojima does with all his female characters except mom flavored this time. And again, these complaints direct them at the outlets, not Kojima. Another individual saying, I'm about 40 hours into Death Stranding 2. This is actual journalist. I believe they work for a Canadian outlet. And as someone who didn't play the first game, it's been quite the experience. More thoughts on CBC Radio later this week. But for now, delivery, gameplay good, constant surprises. A story is idiotic. Kojima's woman characters may have gotten worse. And like I said, games media, their opinion on so many games and the fact that they keep leaning into this cultural stuff, it's just something I strongly disagree with, and it only continues. And since we did bring up Metal Gear Solid, this is something that Kojima has been tacked on for years. Metal Gear Solid 5, yes, Quiet is a sexist character, but mostly just stupid. Forbes wrote that one back around 2015 when a lot of these outlets back then were going into overdrive. It's kind of slowed down, I think, as of late, but my God, it was getting really bad a couple of years ago. And then in another Forbes article written by somebody else, guilt-shaming Quiet Woman and Metal Gear Solid. You know exactly where this is going, but they do quote Kojima, saying in 2013, Hideo Kojima said he designed Quiet as an antithesis.
Bro, what the fuck was that ad? Paving the way for future native leaders. Join us. How about no?
Kojima saying in
Also, look at it. Oh, it disappeared. I was looking at my OBS and wait, does the OBS not pick up this ad? I was almost gonna shit myself if that was true. And a black woman doing laundry? Bro, can we just stop?
Kojima saying in 2013, Hideo Kojima said he designed Quiet as an antithesis to the way women characters appeared in the past fighting game who are excessively exposed.
Okay, at least we had some more normal ads here. Jesus.
He argued Quiet fits into the game's larger theme about misunderstanding.
Nice. I love the absolute insanity of, oh yeah, this whatever native person woman needs to be a leader because she's a whatever native person. Is she currently right over there sniffing gasoline though? Yes. But that's a good thing. It's pretty fucking wild, okay?
Understanding prejudice, hatred, conflict caused by the difference of language, race, custom, culture, and preference. And the best, like Kojima has consciously chosen to make Quiet a symbol of sexuality, even as she doesn't seem to have any of her own, all as a way of showing how superficial people's responses to hollow signifiers can be, jumping at the sight of potentially offensive material and using it as a sawhorse for negating both the work and the person who made it. And the rest of this article kind of just goes on talking about Kojima and how he's problematic with women, with his games. Like this one, Kojima's sense of sexuality in Metal Gear has always reflected a kind of joylessness. And yeah, like
What
I said,
does that
these
even mean?
articles, these opinions, they have been around for a while. Pace Magazine also had a mind-boggling one, the violent sexism of Metal Gear Solid 5. I think people forget like the controversial nature of all.
Yeah, the Metal Gear Solid stuff was, everyone tried to label it sexist at that time because I mean it was kind of slowly starting to peak at this point, and well, Metal Gear Solid was one of the big points where it peaked. Oh boy. Anyway, that was Legacy Kill HD. 10 out of 10. Bye.